Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that Star Wars is pretty much in a current state where it's very unlikely to get fixed or repaired back to the way it was when George Lucas was leading the prequel trilogy movies, and was even beginning to work on his first ever Star Wars TV show that got cancelled back in 2007 that was called Star Wars Underworld. Now we have a time where Kathleen Kennedy is literally taking source material from Star Wars Legends and essentially flipping it upside down. This is why in a lot of shows like Mando Season 3, Ahsoka, etc., you see similar things, but they are drastically different at the same exact time. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, the thing about Kathleen Kennedy that I think a lot of fans out there, including myself, really have a very big problem with is the fact of how relentless she really is. She never owns up to her mistakes. She will never admit that she did something wrong with Star Wars, nor The Last Jedi. I mean, forget about it. She has done apologies before in the past, but they were all sorry, not sorry type of apologies, and they never made full sense. She also did that with Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, another franchise that she bulldozed that just got released back in July, that is really just something that really goes to show you that she has technically destroyed 3 franchises because she's also responsible for the current state of Marvel. Now, on top of all of that, we know that Kathleen Kennedy's position over at Lucasfilm is wreaking havoc over at the company. Now, with Kathleen Kennedy actively involved with future shows and movies, one crucial development has to do with her stance on the Star Wars fandom and talking them down by delivering the following. I think the problem that we are dealing with today is the fact that we have a male demographic that is seemingly afraid of powerful women and themselves taking large roles and leading roles in what men previously perceived as being strictly male-led content. You see, this is the type of thing that we here at Lucasfilm embrace to change with our upcoming Acolyte series and our wonderful new film being led by writer Stephen Knight and featuring actress Daisy Ridley that will bring a return of Rey with the opportunity of making this a nearly all-female-led film, and we support that. And for those that are opposed to that, well, then that's the problem with our society and the modern stage with how the film industry is seen in the public eye. For decades, we have seen all films and television shows run by males, and we feel it's our chance to make up for lost time, where the women get the greatest opportunity in the galaxy far, far away. Now, let me just stop here quick about what Kennedy is putting out there, is the fact that she is literally admitting that she is doubling down, that she is pandering harder, alright? To kind of go back to South Park there for a second. The thing about this, about Kathleen Kennedy, is that she is using the concept of equality in the totally, in a totally wrong way, to the point where it's heavily flawed and hypocritical. Look, I gotta be very vivid with you guys. I'm all for, a female being in the spotlight, or even a female character being the main character of a film. I mean, it has worked for decades. This is nothing new. And there's a lot of producers out there, like Kathleen Kennedy, she's not the only one, I think you guys know exactly who I'm talking about, who love to constantly push that narrative that this is something that has never been done before, that we have never had a female-led movie, or even an all-female-led cast. I mean, speaking about female-led characters, can we not mention Kill Bill as one of the biggest ones out there? Led by Quentin Tarantino, who, by the way, is totally against woke agendas, as far as we know. And that's everything there is to tell you. That's just one thing to name drop there. You also got Ellen Ripley, Sarah Connor. You've got endless examples. That's just to name a few. I can go on and on. But moving onwards here, this is where matters get even more serious. Now, we know that in Ahsoka, they established the fact of going to a new galaxy to kind of just have endless possibilities, and Kathleen Kennedy kind of touches on that in just a second. Now, we know that Ahsoka right now is something of a mixed bag. There's a lot of fans that support it, a lot of other fans, by the way, who despise it. I am one of those. I did not like the actual show at all. Sure, it may have had some chances here and there to go somewhere, but at the end of the day, acting was subpar, writing was terrible in my book at least, a lot of plot holes, and very forgettable. I mean, if I think back right now, I really can't remember anything memorable about that show. That's just me though, I don't know about you, but moving on. We will have some important updates, she says, with our film featuring Daisy Ridley in the coming weeks as we look forward to things getting hopefully resolved with the SAG strike. But I think what we need to focus on is curing the toxic fandom and the loud minority of fans that can make themselves appear to be the majority. When you are dealing with creators as a producer, you must make sure that you have creators on board that are in support of your vision. With loud, opinionated fans a part of this community, we need to focus on that front. We are shifting away from George's vision, so that we don't have to deal with the burden of what established fans expect. This is why I think it's important to focus on creating new fans as opposed to putting the hand out to fans that are overly demanding. With the franchise, that only makes it harder for our creators to work effectively. We are moving to a new galaxy, we are leaving things behind from what the old fans know, as this gives us endless possibilities for the future ahead. Dave Filoni supports our vision of where Star Wars needs to go, and I think ultimately this is all that's important because Dave is such a passionate creator of ours. We have great ideas coming to life also by Leslie Headland, our showrunner for the Acolyte series, who also felt it was time to move on from Lucas's Star Wars and his takes on the franchise from the prequels to the originals. Both I and Leslie are endlessly mapping out the future of where this could all go to really give women a shot in the spotlight for this ever-evolving story that unfolds with each film or series that we put out. Now guys, the biggest thing that bothers me is how Kathleen Kennedy kind of lays down an example that this is all about making up for lost time of the women that did not get supporting roles or lead roles in movies and TV shows, or in major franchises at that. All I could do is sigh at that. I really just don't know what to say anymore. I mean, when you look at stuff like this, of what's coming out of the Acolyte series, which by the way, it's going to be a disaster. We all know what Leslie Headland said about the show, I don't have to repeat it again, but she did also say in a podcast that if you look up to George Lucas and if you expect him to be the only person in the room to truly understand Star Wars, then that's the misogyny. That's the problem. Her exact words. She has said that before on a podcast, and she made that openly clear that that's how she views people that look up to George as the key light or the key answer to making Star Wars correctly. And at the end of the day, she equals it to misogyny. And that really just goes to show you how out of touch with people are, like Leslie Headland, Kathleen Kennedy, etc., etc. We all know, by the way, who Leslie Headland was the personal assistant for, which I think is even more disgusting for Lucasfilm to have her hired, taking control over this show for 2024. Which, by the way, it has gone through a couple of delays. We have more to talk about that as well. But yeah, I would love to hear what you all have to say about the fact that Kathleen Kennedy is really pushing that narrative and really just shifting away from established fans and George fans. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.